Hi everybody, Ottawa guy here. This is lesson 8 of my continuing series of how to improve the Lego Mindstorm EV3RSTORM project. What I'm going to do is show you the demo video, and then we're going to go right into how to program it. Okay, so I'm just going to launch the video, and then I'll come back on and we'll show you how to program this. Okay, so enjoy. Yeah. Moving. Yeah. Hi everyone, Ottawa guy here. This is going to be the demo of what you're going to learn in lesson number 8, and this is a continuation of the first 7 lessons that takes the out-of-the-box EV3RSTORM and add some functionality to it. We've added some stuff that I'm going to demonstrate here, and then I'm going to show you what I've added for this lesson, and then we're going to go into the programming of it. So again, this is just the EV3RSTORM that's been built out of the box of the project you can find on the Lego Mindstorm EV3 Home Software Edition. And I'm just going to go ahead and start up the program. Now once the program starts, you're going to hear the robot talk. He's basically going to say to give you instructions on how to operate the robot by pushing on the touch sensor. But anyways, I'm just going to start it up so you can see the demo, and then I'll kind of walk you through what the functionality of this robot is. So I'm just going to start up the program.
Welcome to EV3RSTORM. At any time, push the touch sensor for instructions.
Okay, so basically the robot just indicated that at any time you want during the operation of the robot, you just have to push on the touch sensor, which is the right shoulder here. On the left shoulder we have the color sensor, which is something that I've added a program to for this lesson, lesson 8. So before we go any further, I'm just going to push on the touch sensor and let the robot walk through, or the EV3RSTORM walk through what the instructions are. So listen up.
Channel 1 on the remote controls movement. Channel 2 on the remote controls shooting. Channel 3 on the remote controls the volume. Put your finger over the color sensor to hear a joke.
Okay, so what that said was channel 1 controls movement, so I'm going to show that now. So right now the infrared remote, or the beacon, as it's sometimes called, is set to channel 1, and I'm just going to push on the 2 up arrows. Sorry, put it to channel 1. Sorry, it was on channel 4, so channel 1, forward, back, go back, turn, a little bit forward. Okay. Sorry, I'm working on the edge, getting a little stressed out, but I'm going to turn him into the camera so you can kind of see what's going on. So there's a robot basically able to go backwards and forward, so I'm just going to move it back a little bit till he's in the middle. So that's channel 1. On channel 2, which you changed by just pulling down on the red tab, it goes into channel 2, and now what channel 2 is, it controls the shooting. I don't have any balls in here right now, but when you push the top left arrow,
Shooting up.
he says shooting up. Top left again,
Shooting up.
shooting up. As I've said, I got no balls in there. I'm just kind of sick of chasing them around. Push the bottom left,
Shooting down.
and it shoots down, okay? Like it said, I'm going to go to channel 3, and what channel 3 does is it controls the volume. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn it up. It defaults to 50 to start off the program, and if I push on this thing 5 times, it'll go 50 through 60 through to 100, okay? So let's just listen to the volume go up, and he will say up as I push the volume up. 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Now what I've done is I've actually storing that volume level into a variable, and that variable is used anytime the robot talks. So what I'm going to do now is demonstrate what is the functionality that I've added for lesson 8. Now lesson 8 is the ability for the robot to tell a joke. So all I have to do is put my finger over the color sensor, and it will detect that there's a change in the sensitivity of the intensity of light, and it will then tell a joke. So listen.
Joke time. Are those real, or did you get upgraded in Silicon Valley?
Okay, so there's a joke.
Joke time. What did the male robot say to the pretty female robot? Yeah, I know your metric, but I'm willing to convert.
Okay, so the way that the jokes are working is that basically as you touch the or put your finger over the color sensor, the light intensity is changing, and there's a threshold that's being triggered, and then it's going into a joke telling kind of loop. And now what's happened? Not really a loop, but it's more like a switch, like a variable is controlling what joke is being told. So I'm going to explain this all to you in the programming component of this video that we'll do a little bit later. But basically what's happening is every time I put my finger over the color sensor, the light intensity is changing, it's triggering a joke, it tells a joke, and then increments the joke number counter by 1 so that the jokes don't repeat. I think in there I've got 10 or 11 jokes, and at the end, when it tells the last joke, it then resets the variable back to 1, and it just loops through the jokes, 1 through 10 or 11, however many I have in there. And I gotta, these jokes aren't that good, they're kind of corny, but for the purposes of this video, I just wanted to keep them kind of goofy robot jokes. So let's just listen to a couple more.
Joke time. What did the male robot say to the pretty female robot? Are you a parking ticket? Because you've got fine written all over you.
Okay, so just to summarize what we've got again, I went back to channel 1. Just going to move the robot a little bit forward, a little bit back. Move him back, forward, back a little bit, back a little bit. Put him in, put him square to the camera. Come forward a little bit, 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 go back. So I'm going to do one more joke and then I'm going to sign off and show you how to program this guy.
Joke time. Why did the robot cross the road? Because he was programmed by a chicken.
Because he was programmed by a chicken. Okay, there's another corny robot joke. I think basically that's all. Oh, actually, there's one more thing I wanted to point out. What you'll notice is right now the brick light is off. So I'm going to show you how to control the brick light, and I'm going to do one more joke actually to show you how this works. And you'll see that when the robot talks, the light will flash green, and then it will go off at the end of the joke. And that's just another little technique that I want to show you how to do.
Joke time. What did the male robot say to the pretty female robot? Was that my CPU malfunctioning, or did I feel a spark between us?
Okay, there you go. So the light flashed and went off when the robot stopped talking. That's just something you can do. Actually, you can do that to save a little bit of battery power. It doesn't really draw a lot of battery, but sometimes these builds actually, when you put them together, the battery's not all that accessible, so it's kind of annoying when you run out of battery power and you've got the robot all made up, then you got to kind of take it apart to get access to the batteries. Fortunately for me, I spent a little bit of money and I bought a battery pack for it, so there's actually a battery pack that sits in there now and it's just recharged through I think it's a 10 volt charge or 11 or something like that. But anyways, I can just plug it in and recharge it without changing batteries, which is something you might want to look into. Anyways, so thanks for watching, and we'll get right into the programming techniques of how to do this. Okay, bye-bye. Okay, there you go. So now you've seen how the program basically works. So in the demo mode. Now, what I've already got the Lego Mindstorm Home Software Edition running. I've already loaded my EV3RSTORM project, which is the one I've been using to build the other demos and build the other projects. So we're going to go straight into showing you how to create another loop that will run at the startup of the robot and will allow you to have the robot tell jokes by, as you saw in the demo, putting your finger over the color, or sorry, the color sensor. The color sensor has some different modes, and we'll get into that later, but one of the modes is the ambient light intensity, which is basically how bright the light is in the room. The other mode is obviously recognition of color, so it's kind of neat that this sensor has multiple settings. Okay, I'm going to try and keep this quick again. I noticed that my videos are running about 20 minutes, and hopefully you're enjoying them, but I'm just going to show you how to create another block here, another loop, so that we can start programming our robot to tell jokes. Okay, so first thing we got to do is we got to go to the flow control and grab a start block. We're just going to drop it up here, okay, anywhere. I think there's going to be enough room here for this. And as you saw in the demo, one of the things that happens is that the brick light comes off and on. When he's telling a joke, to make it look like he's talking, there's a visual indicator, which is the block light. So I'm actually going to show you. Sorry, I said block. The brick. So I'm going to show you how the brick status light works. But the first thing we want to do is actually drop the brick status light indicator here. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn it off, okay? Now, as you may know, you can see that I have multiple loops that are all running at the same time. And that's one of the cool things about these robots, is that when the My Robot main program which is our main program, is started on the robot, it's going on the EV3RSTORM, it's going to run all of these programs simultaneously. And that's why it's nice to drop these instructions in. So actually what I'm going to do is just going to copy this one. I'm going to try and use the menu here, edit, copy, click somewhere else and do an edit paste. And it should drop that where I clicked, okay? So now we're just going to say, we're going to double click on here to edit it, and it says this loop controls the movement. I'm going to say this loop controls the ability for the robot to tell jokes, okay? So basically we have the beginning of a joke block. Now what we want to do is, we want to, and you're just going to have to bear with me, we need to set a variable, okay? So I'm going to go back to up here on the left, the project properties, and I'm going to go to variables, and I'm going to add a variable. Now this variable is going to be called joke num, okay? Just call it joke num, or let's just, yeah, joke num short enough, short form for joke number, and it's going to be numeric. Now the reason that we need a joke num variable is that we're going to keep track of what the joke number is so that the robot doesn't continuously tell the same joke. And what we'll do is I'll show you how to use this joke variable to increment the joke number by 1 each time the robot tells a joke, and then we'll reset it back to 0 so that it can go back through the jokes if you get to the maximum number of jokes that you've programmed. Let's go back to my robot main, okay, by clicking on this little panel up here on the top left. Now what we have is the variable. We're going to drop it in here because we have to set. I always like to initialize the variables. So drop the variable here, and we're going to write 0. Basically what we're saying here is to the program, write the value 0 into the variable. Whoops, let's change the variable joke num. That's one thing that's very important. In a previous lesson I showed you how up here we have a volume variable, and that's used throughout the program. Anytime he talks, you can use the volume variable to set it to a predetermined amount, and as I showed you in a previous lesson, this volume variable is defaulted to 50, but as you push up and down on the infrared remote in channel 3, I believe it is, the volume will go up and down. So you saw that in the demo. Okay, back to this one. So the joke num has now been initialized to 0. Now what we need in here now is we need a loop, okay? So we're going to go down, and we're going to do just like all the other ones. We're going to drop a loop here, and it's going to snap to this block here, and we're going to loop for infinity. And inside the loop, we're going to want to do something. And what we're going to want to do in the loop is we're going to want to call, eventually I'm going to create a block that's going to call a joke. But right now, the most important thing inside here is we want to determine whether or not the color sensor has been covered by somebody's finger or hand or anything that's going to change the light intensity on the color sensor. So what that is, that's a switch, okay? So now a switch, I know I've talked about this before, and I'm trying not to repeat myself too much, but we need to drop a switch in here. And what the switch will do, you know, I'm just going to make this a little bit, I don't want to make it too small, but I want to make sure that you're able to see what I'm working on, okay? So I'm just going to move, with the up and down arrows, you can kind of move your screen around. So I'm just moving the screen around with the up and down arrows, okay? So let's just go up here, and we're going to double click on the one here. There seems to be a little bit of a lag right now. My computer, just click away and then double click. Come on, work for me. Double click. There we go. I'm just going to call this joke because I don't have a lot of real estate right now. So this is the joke loop, okay? It's just a way to give a loop a name. There are other reasons why you want to give loops names, but that's kind of more advanced programming. But right now, you can see that the loop name kind of gives you an idea what the heck's going on, in addition to the comments. Okay, now this loop, what we want to do is we want this loop, sorry, this is the loop here on the outside, and within it we have a switch. Now what do we want to do with the switch? The switch is a logic that will execute this code up here if if the logic in the switch is true, or true, and it will execute this down here if the logic is false. So the good thing about this loop is this loop will go on forever, 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 and as long as whatever switch indicator here is not been activated, then this will continue to execute, which is nothing. So basically the robot will do nothing through this negative loop, or this negative switch, and when something happens that's the positive state, it will execute up here. And this is where we're going to put our code. So, but the first thing we want to do is make sure that we change our switch here to not be the color sensor, but to be the color, I don't know, I said touch sensor. So it's not the touch sensor, we want it to be the color sensor. So what we're going to do is we're going to set the switch to compare the ambient light intensity, the reflected light intensity. Ambient light and reflected light are a little different. I'm not really going to go into the differences right now, but what we need to do is as a matter of fact, I think we can use both, but in this case, we're going to use the reflected light intensity. Now, and what we want to do, so now the reflected light intensity, we're in a switch. This is going to be doing something like a compare, right? But what we really want to do is we want to compare if the light intensity is greater than, and we need a threshold value. And the threshold we're going to use is 20. Now you can fool around with these numbers, etc., but what it means is, okay, I'm just going to try and drag this out because I don't like the way that is not showing nicely here. So what's going to happen is, if somebody puts their finger over the color sensor, the light intensity will change. And what we want to do is we want to say, well, if the light is greater than 20, then that means that we want to execute the positive state, okay? Now I'm going to just click on this arrow to move things over a little bit. I'm actually going to drag this out a little bit to make the block a little bigger, okay? Oh, it actually snapped back on me. So I'm just going to try and drag that again, and then I'm going to try and drag. Doesn't seem to want me to. There we go. Just drag this a little bigger, okay? Because we're going to put a couple things up in here. Now the first thing that we want to do is, when somebody covers the light sensor, you heard that the robot said joke time. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a little sound file, and we're going to drop in something that says joke time, okay? So go back up here to the menu, click Tools, Sound Editor, okay? And I've shown you this before, so I'm just going to go through this quickly. Click on the record button. Joke time. Okay, stop that. Let's just see how it sounds. By selecting, I'm just holding down my left mouse and dragging and let going of my left mouse button to select this area. Now hit play. Joke time. Okay, there you go. That sounds good. We're going to save that as joke time. Okay. Now what happens is that sound file has been added to our project. So close that up, and what I'm going to do now is grab that joke time. So I need to grab the sound block. I'm going to drop it up here, okay? And we're going to select joke time by clicking on here. Joke time. And it says joke time for you. Now, as you know, what we've been doing in our program is anytime he talks, we've been setting a volume. It's a little bit annoying, but I kind of like to do it, so I'm going to reinforce that by showing you how to do that again. So we're going to grab a variable block, okay? And we're going to drop it in front of, anytime we have a speaker, we're going to drop in our volume block. And now what we want to do is we want to have this in write mode, okay? Or sorry, read mode. Read numeric. So what we want to say is we want to read the numeric of volume. Now, because we have two variables here, always make sure you're using the right one. It's very easy when you only have one variable, but as soon as you start adding variables, you're going to want to make sure that you're using the right variable at the right time. So again, I've shown you this before. What I'm going to do now is click on the volume variable, and I'm going to drag by holding down the left button, and I'm going to drop it onto the volume. Now what that means is whatever values in volume will be transferred to the joke time, and that will be the setting for the volume level, okay? You don't really have to do this. You can pretty much ignore the volume variable if that's kind of annoying for you. But again, I'm building on what I've done before, so I kind of want to stick to the principles, and that is why I'm using the volume variable to populate the joke time sound. Okay, now there's one thing that we want to do is we're going to need to drop a block in here, okay? Because obviously when you cover the color sensor, or when somebody covers the color sensor, we're going to say joke time, and we're going to want to say a joke. Now the important thing is, the next step I need to show you is, again, I'm going to show you how to create a block. So I'm going to go up to the, you know what? Before we do that, let's add the instruction. Let's modify the instruction block to include instructions on how to initiate the robot to tell a joke. So we're going to go back up to our sound editor, and we're going to create a sound program, a sound file that tells the user to put their finger over the color sensor to initiate a joke. Okay, so just bear with me. Put your finger over the color sensor to tell a joke. Okay, let's see how that sounds.
Put your finger over the color sensor to tell a joke.
There, that sounds pretty good. Again, I've been through this before. You can use more robotic sounding voice. You can try and find a synthesizer or some kind of voice thing that will actually alter your voice to sound like a robot, and then play it back to your computer and record it that way. But I'm just keeping this simple for the purposes of a demo. But you can play around with different, voices. You can try and talk like a robot, but we're just going to save that as, we're going to call that joke, INST, for joke instruction, okay? So click on OK, close that. Now what we want to do is we want to drop in a wait block right here, because what I've said before is what you want to do is you want to wait a little bit of pause a little bit between when the robot talks, otherwise it's going to talk continuously. If you actually, because there is a limit on how long the sound files are, if you have to butt a bunch of sound files together to make a long complete sentence, then you might not want to use these delays between. But for me, I do want to have, channel 1, which is the movement, and then it'll pause, and then it'll tell you that channel 2 is for shooting, and then it pauses, it tells you channel 3 is for volume, and then what we're going to have is channel 4. We're going to drop our sound file up here. Sorry, I'm getting a little lag today. It's a little annoying. Drop it right there, and we want to select our joke instruction.
Put your finger over the color sensor to tell a joke.
There you go. So again, what I want to tell you, what I want to point out is there's a star up here in the EV3RSTORM project name, and what that means is that there's been changes that haven't been saved. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to file. I'm just going to save the project so that we don't lose any of our changes. And now we've got our instruction block updated. And the great thing is that is one of the greatest things about having a block, by the way, is that I can update this part. I'm just going to close it now. But in the robot main, when the instruction block here is executed, it actually executes that updated code. So this block is just a pointer to another file. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to double click on it. Okay. And you can see now that the block is open again, and it's got my joke instructions that I've added to the end. So I think that's kind of cool. I'm just going to close that, okay? We're back to my robot main. So now we've got our joke instructions updated to be on the instruction file. And the next thing I want to do is show you how to create the joke block itself, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to create a program by clicking on the add program, the plus here. And technically you don't really need to name it, but I'm going to give it a name. It's going to be called tell joke, okay? Now I like to add tell joke program because I'll show you later that I do like to differentiate between what are blocks and what are programs. So let's just call this our tell joke program. Now I'm just making it a little smaller so that we can kind of see what's going on. I'm going to click the up arrow to move this play. It doesn't really work that way, but I could just drag this play button, select it, drag it, and put it in the middle. Okay. First thing that we need to do in our joke block is we need to increment, because if you go back to the My Robot main you'll see that we initialize the joke number to 0. Now the trick here is that we're going to be creating a switch. You know what? Let me just drop the switch in right now. Here's the switch. We're just going to drop it there and leave it for a second. Okay? Now right now this switch, we're going to strategically change this. As a matter of fact, we're going to change this switch now, and we're going to change it to a numeric. So now what will happen is when this switch is executed, and the default will be 1, the default case is 1. When the switch is executed, it will execute the number that's here. So if the variable, and I'll get into it a little bit later, but if the switch value is 1, it executes this. If it's 0, it executes that. As a matter of fact, we don't really want it to be 0. We want this to be 2. Okay? So just delete that and type in 2. For the purpose of this demo, I think I don't know if let's just use 2 jokes, and I'll show you how to add, you know what, I'll show you how to add more. So we'll probably add 3 jokes in here, but I'm definitely not going to do more than that. Now, in order to determine which number that we're at, we need to use our joke number variable. So I'm going down to the data operations, and I'm grabbing the joke variable, okay? Plop it here. As you can see, it's defaulted volume. We want to change that to joke num. Always make sure you change your variable name, especially obviously if you have more than 2 or or many more. You're gonna have to do that. Now, what we want to do is every time we come into this block. By the way, I am going to be creating this into a block and show you how to do that. But every time we come into this block, we're going to want to tell a different joke. And what that means is we're going to have to increment or add 1 to our joke number every time we come in this block. And the only time we're going to come into this block is when, back on robot main, is when the operator puts their finger over the color sensor. We're going to go up into this block, and we're going to see that we're going to call right here, we're going to add the block to call, and it's going to call the joke program, which is going to be turned into a block. And then every time it comes in here, we want to increment our joke number by 1 so that we don't repeat the jokes. Otherwise, it would tell joke number 0 every time, and we don't even have a 0. So the first thing we want to do is grab a math operation, okay? And what we're going to do is drop it here, and this is something that I don't know if I've shown you out in any of my other programs, but I'm going to kind of show you how, and it defaults. There's these different, math you can do: subtract, divide, multiply, absolute. This is kind of cool stuff, so I'm going to show you how the math stuff works. Now, to give you a little bit of a trick, we're going to take the joke num, and we're going to do some mathematics on it, and then we're going to write the result back into joke num. So I actually have to get another copy of joke num and drop it here. Okay, change the variable to joke num. Now, as you can see here, we want to take the joke num, and we want to read the value, numeric. We want to read the value, and I'm just left clicking and dragging, and I'm going to drop it onto A. Now, the way this works is, so what I've done now is I've taken the variable joke num, and I'm using it in my math operation. And let me just drag. So I don't know if you know, but what we need to do now is we need to take the output of this operation and put it into joke num. Okay, and that's why this is a write. So now I'm going to walk you through what this means. Take the value of joke num, add, because joke num is going into variable A. So what this operation is doing is it's adding A to B, and then it's writing the output, okay? So what this means is take the value of joke num and make it A, add 1 to it, which is the value of B, and then write it back into joke num. So really what we're doing now is we're just incrementing joke num by 1. Now, if there's another way to do this, maybe just throw it in the comments. But all this is this just incrementing the joke num by 1 by using a simple math operation, okay? So now, what we have to do is, we have to actually, in addition, not only do we have to write the output of the A plus B operation to the joke num, we actually have to write it into the switch, okay? Because right now, the switch value is numeric. And what we want to do is, so left click on this again, and then drag. I just lost my mouse, so let me try that again. Left click, drag. Yeah, I've got a low battery on this mouse, and that's what's causing this grief. Okay, so let me try that again. click, drag, drop it, okay? So now we've got the joke num is being incremented by 1 through this math operation, and it's also, once it's incremented, the value is stored immediately. The value goes in joke num, and then the joke num value can go into this numeric here. In addition, I believe, I'm not positive, no, I couldn't. I don't think I can drag this one over to here to join it. I'm not even going to try. So basically, there we go. Oh, you know what? I just did, by clicking on it, I just undid it. So I want to make sure I could do it again. Drop this here. Whoops. So now I'm having a problem. Okay. Let's click and drag. There we go. It's back to normal. So like I said, do not click on these lines or it makes it go away, which makes sense. I'm just going to save this just to save my progress because something wonky is going on today. So I apologize. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to tell a joke. So let's just walk through a variable how this works, okay? So the first time I come in, the first time I come into this loop, joke number is going to be 0. It's going to be incremented to 1. The value 1 is going to be placed into the switch, which means that the first joke will be told. And then the next time I come into this loop, it's going to take the value joke num, which is 1 now, add 1 to it, so it becomes 2, and then the second joke will be told. Okay, so let's add a joke into number 1, just a really quick one. The one I so we're going to go to the tools, the sound editor, and I kind of like the why the robot crossed the road. So I'll show you how to do that, okay? Why did the robot cross the road? Okay, so we're just going to do this in 2 halves. Grab this part.
Why did the robot cross the road?
Okay, we're going to save that as cross road 1. Okay. And we're going to, and now that's saved, so don't worry about it. We're going to record again a new one. We've already saved it, so don't worry about that. Because he was programmed by a chicken. Okay, stop that. Listen to that.
Because programmed by a chicken.
See, sometimes that happens, by the way. Sometimes there's a little bit of a blurb, so let me do that again. Because he was programmed by a chicken. Okay, let me stop that. See how that sounds?
Because he was programmed by a chicken.
That one doesn't sound great, but it's not too bad. I'm not going to keep doing it, and so we're going to call that cross road 2. Okay, so now we've got 2. So let's drop those sound files into our joke. Okay, joke number 1 switch. I mean, so I'm just going to drop 2 of these right up here. Okay, because we have 2 files. We're going to put a wait block in between 2, just a teeny weeny little bit of a wait. And I don't think I'm going to wait a second. I'm just going to, you can actually change this variable here to like about half a second. Okay, let's make that 0.5. So it'll be a little bit of a pause, but not too much. So we want to grab the file name here called crossroad 1.
Why did the robot cross the road?
And then pick this one to be cross 2.
Because he was programmed by a chicken.
So you can hear that little bit of a blip there. I don't know if that's my operating system or what, but it's kind of annoying. Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to always use our volume variable to control the volume that's being sounded. The volume that's being said. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our volume variable and drop it in here, and we're going to put it into read mode, read numeric, and here we go with my mouse again. We're going to click and drag. Oh, see, it's not going to, it's going to be annoying for me here. We're going to drag this. Come on, give me a break. Drag this to this volume, and then we're going to do it again. We're actually going to drag this value. Okay, I'm going to click away, then click here. Come on, volume. And drag and get it over to here to the 100. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm using my volume variable in both the crossroad and crossroad 2. Most of the times I'm doing this just to show you programming techniques. Again, the volume, if you don't set it to a predefined value, it would just come on blaring at 100, and I just kind of find it annoying. Okay, let's add another joke, because right now we're going to tell one joke and then it's going to tell a second, and then I'll show you how to add one more third joke by adding a third value in this switch, and then we'll be done. So the second joke, let's just tools, sound editor, and we're going to do what did the male robot say to the pretty female robot? Okay, let's pick the area, see how that sounds. Holy mouse, man.
What did the male robot say to the pretty female robot?
Okay, let's save that. What did male robot? Okay. And then we're going to record the answer. Are you from Mars? Because you're out of this world. Okay. Of course, again, we have to have stupid, corny robot jokes. Let's see how that sounds.
Are you from Mars? Because you're out of this world.
Okay, so let's just save that. Are you from Mars? Okay. Close that. Now let's drop that joke in here. Go back to this block. Drop in one sound, two sounds. We're going to drop in a delay. This time I think actually I'm going to delay for a second. Just leave it as one. So, and then I'm just going to copy this volume variable. Okay. Drop it down here. Okay. Hopefully I can get this to work. I'm going to take this volume variable and I'm going to drag. Yeah, this is so annoying. I apologize, everybody. Drag it to the volume here. Drag it over here. Drop it onto this file. And now we're going to pick our files. Why did? Oh, sorry, no, sorry, not why did, but what did the male
What did the male robot say to the pretty female robot?
Now grab this one.
Are you from Mars? Because you're out of this world.
Okay, so I'm going to show you how to add one more because it's important, and I'm going to show you one more little key factor that we have to do. So now what we're going to do is we're going to click on this plus right here. This is going to add a case. So if I click on plus, you can see it added a new case down here, and we're going to click in there, and we're going to say this is case 3. Okay. Now I'm going to do the copy the volume block now. I'm going to plop it down here. Okay. And we're going to do one more recording. This is joke number 3. Okay, I'm not really in the mood to do another corny robot joke, so let's just see how that sounds.
This is joke number 3.
Okay, save that. Call it joke 3. Say okay, close that up. Let's drop our sound here. Pick joke 3.
This is joke number 3.
Make sure we take our volume variable and use that. Whoops. Let's do that again. Wait till that blue indicator comes on. Drop it. Oh, one other thing I kind of want to make you guys remember. Remember, everything is always set to play the entire. Like if you click on this one, 0 means wait for completion of the sound file. That's very important. You always want to make you wait for the completion. If you ever drop in a sound file and you notice that the sounds overlap or something crazy is going on, always go back and make sure that it's set to 0, meaning that this entire sound file will complete before the robot goes to the next block in the linear set of programs. Okay, now, there's one concept that's very important. As you know, every time we come into this block, we're incrementing 1 to the joke num. So the first time we come through, it goes from 0 to 1, we tell this joke. The next time it goes from 1 to 2, we tell this joke. The next time it goes from 2 to 3, we tell this joke. There's a catch. If we come into this block a 4th time, it's going to be a value of 4, and it's not going to have any joke to tell. So that's why on the so basically you're going to be adding all your own cases, add as many jokes as you want, do a search on the internet on jokes for robots, and just, make your own sound files and keep adding cases. Always remember to increment it by 1. Now the catch is, when we have our last joke, we need to reset our joke number variable. We need to reset it back to 0. Okay? That's critical. So what I got to do is go add my variable, grab it, drop it right here, and then what we're going to do is we're going to write into joke num, we're going to write the value 0. Okay? Now, I'm just going to save this. Okay? Now, the last thing that I want to show you was, if you remember in the demo, when he was talking, the light was blinking. And if you remember in robot main over here, there's a big lag here. We've actually turned off the brick light. So what we're going to do is, every time we tell a joke, we're going to turn the brick light on, then we're going to turn the brick light off. By the way, this is a little bit of the bug. You'll see that sometimes the software seems to superimpose values from previous screens onto this one. So just kind of ignore that, because this is actually a label that's on the robot main screen. So if you see that kind of happening, every once in a while I just like to reboot my PC or whatever to get it kind of fixed. So now what we want to do is we want to control the brick light. When he talks, we want it to blink. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab the brick and we're going to just drop it right here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to turn the brick on, and it's going to be true, which is basically, it's actually going to pulse. Pulse is true, meaning it's going to flash, and the color I like is green. So, and I believe if you set it to false, it won't pulse, right? It'll just stay on continuously, but we like it to pulse. So what's going to happen is the brick light's going to come on, it's going to pulse green. This takes no time to execute, so it's not like it's going to come on way before he starts talking. And what we need to do at the end of the program, because as you can see outside of this switch, you can also connect blocks here. What we want to do is we want to turn the brick light back off. Okay? So just drop that here, and then turn the brick off. So basically what's going to happen is every time he tells a joke, the brick light's going to flash, then we're going to turn it off. I think I'm going to save that. And while I'm doing that, I need to turn the robot on because I'm just about done, and I'm going to want to download just to make sure it works. So I'm going to turn him on. You're going to hear him come up. Don't worry about that. Now, we need to convert this into a block, and I've shown you that before. So what we want to do is we want to select everything in the screen, okay? But we want to deselect. I'm using the control arrow, and I got to deselect the start button. You're not allowed to have a start button in a block. It's a little bit annoying that it doesn't know to drop it for you, but anyways. Now we're going to go up to Tools, and we're going to go up to My Block Builder. Okay? Now we're going to give this a name. We're going to call this the Tell Joke Block. Okay? I like to give it a quick description. Block to control telling jokes. And you're allowed to pick an icon for what the block is. I think I'll pick the speaker icon. Not a big deal, and say finish. Now I did show in a previous lesson on how to create blocks. I kind of went through this a little quick because I feel as though the demo is running a little bit long, but basically the concept of building a block allows you to create a program that can be reused and not take up a whole bunch of space. So now what we want to do is, now that we've got a block called we've got a block called Tell Joke block based on this Tell Joke program, we're going to go back to my robot main, and we're going to drop our block in here to tell a joke, okay? So now we go back to our blocks and find the one. There's my Tell Joke block, and drop it right here, okay? So that, I'm going to save this. And I've shown you this before, okay? I like to clean up my project because I use these for demos. I don't like to have a lot of extra things laying around. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to delete the Tell Joke program. I'm just going to click on delete down there. And I'm going to save my project again. And I guarantee you, as long as you've created your block, you're allowed to delete the program that was used to create the block. Because if I click on this Tell Joke block, as you can see, it's right here. It's all there. I think that's about it. Let's just basically go back through what we've done here. So I'm going back to robot main. So what we've got in robot main is we're going to turn the brick light off. We're going to default a joke num variable to 0. Then it's going to get into the loop. That's why this is only executed when you start up the robot. Then we're going to get into this loop that runs forever. And it's just going to sit in here until somebody puts their finger over the color sensor. Then it's going to trigger the telling of a joke. Okay? And we've got our volume variable that can be set up here. It's going to say joke time. Then it's going to go into the tell a joke block, which if I could either double click to look at it, or I can click up here. Now, when we come into our joke block, I'm just going to make it a little smaller. We're going to turn on the brick light to make it look like he's talking. We're going to increment our joke num for the first time. For instance, it'll go from 0 to 1. Then we will use that value to control our switch, which will either tell joke 1, 2, or 3, and you will add a whole bunch of your own, I'm sure. And depending on what the value is, it will execute that line. And it would also use the volume variable that we've created. And then it will turn the brick light off. I can't really think of anything else that we're supposed to. And in addition, what we've also done today is that we've updated the instruction block to include the joke instruction. So you're not going to be able to see this, but I'm going to download all of this to my robot, and I'm just going to quickly test it in the background and kind of talk you through to make sure that this works. Okay? So I'm going to download this to my EV3RSTORM. And I'm going to run the program.
Welcome to EV3RSTORM. At any time, push the touch sensor for instructions.
Okay, I'm just going to turn the volume up by going to channel 3. First thing I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try to push the touch sensor to make sure the instructions work. Okay, so that said everything. I'm going to go backwards and forwards a little bit just to make sure that channel 1 works. Channel 2 still shoots. Okay, channel 3 was the volume. Okay, and then I'm going to try and put my finger over the colors, the color sensor. Okay, I'm going to do it again.
What did the male robot say to the pretty female robot? Yeah, I know your metric, but I'm willing to convert.
Okay.
Joke time. What did the male robot say to the pretty female robot? Are you a parking ticket? Because you've got fine written all over you.
Okay, so as you can see, that was actually the previous program. So I know that all works. I downloaded. Yeah, I just ran the wrong program, so I'm just going to quickly run this one again. So I'm going to run this one, and then I'm going to run my robot main. Okay. Okay, let me turn the volume up. And I'm going to go straight to the instructions again.
Channel 2 controls shooting. Channel 3 controls the volume. Put your finger over the color sensor to tell a joke.
Okay, so here we go.
Joke time. Why did the robot cross the road? Because he was programmed by a chicken.
Okay, I'm just going to turn the volume up a bit.
Joke time. What did the male robot say to the pretty female robot? Are you from Mars? Because you're out of this world. Joke time. This is joke number 3.
There you go. Now I'm going to do it one more time just to make sure it went back to the beginning.
Joke time. Why did the robot cross the road? Because he was programmed by a chicken.
There you go. So sorry about that little mistake there, but hopefully you can just like stare at my screen and figure out what's going on. But there is something that I am noticing actually, is it does not seem to be holding the volume. I'm just going to test the volume for a second. So I'm a little bit nervous that the volume functionality is not working. You can hear it start to decrease now. That's maximum there. Now if I tell a joke. Okay, so that's it for today's demo. I'm going to take a little bit of a look at some of the volume stuff. It's just the volume seems to be a little bit wonky, and I'm going to try and figure that out. But right now, I'd like to sign off and thank you very much for watching the demo.